from Shirley Papanui. Mike Davidson.
Thank you and good evening. Probably open myself up a bit, so I won't talk too long on the whole submission, leave a bit more time for questions and answers. There's probably a few key areas in our submission that I wanted to talk on. The first one is the St Albans Community Centre, permanent community centre. Currently there's a transitional one on site, and there is funding in the budget for a new transitional centre, which we completely support, but we do urge that it is pushed forward a year. The transitional facility lease currently expires 2016, and we just want to get things moving to make sure if that lease is terminated at that point and not renewed, that we do have something in place.
Yep.
Next up is probably our biggest project in our ward, which is the Cranford Street 4-laning and Northern Arterial extension. Currently, as the project stands, the board cannot support it. We have major concerns about the bottleneck that's going to be created at the Innes Road and Cranford Street intersection. We're looking at a lot of traffic coming in from obviously North Canterbury, and they estimate roughly 47,000 vehicles through that intersection per day. And obviously if going from 4 lanes down to 2 lanes it's not going to work in our view. So there's that project, for those 2 projects, it's in excess of $67 million being spent on that, with less than $1 million being spent on downstream effects, which we just don't think adds up, is going to cause bigger problems than what we currently have there. Look, we acknowledge there is support from the outer suburbs in our ward because there is going to be traffic congestion easement from in those areas. At the same time, we've got suburbs closer to the city that are going to have a huge negative effect from what's going to happen from this project. What we believe needs to happen is the downstream effect from this project needs to become a major project itself, and work in tandem and built at the same time as the Cranford Street 4-laning. From what we see as a board, there's 2 very good one-way systems that connect almost to the Warrington Street, which we believe would service this area quite well if it could get linked on properly. So there's an opportunity there to make it work. Currently we think the whole of the North Canterbury and north of Christchurch coming into our city is basically going down a 4-lane street that ends just at nothing really, and it's just going to be huge problems for the city moving forward. I think we really need to look for the future and not at the current situation, and I understand we hear from staff that they don't know what's going to happen in the future. I think we need to be a little bit more realistic and realise that the town will be rebuilt and people are going to go into the town, so we need to make sure we put it correct now and not make a mistake with that. There's a couple of projects that aren't on the funding, which I'll go on the last thing. One is the predator fence of the Sticks Mill Reserve. Currently it's half a fence. There's no point having half a fence. We think it's quite an important project to actually be added to it to make sure that is completed. Also, one that sort of needs to be done with the Waimak District Council is a walk-cycle bridge over the Waimak River. We think this is quite an important project that needs to be restarted and looked at. My understanding is they had a name for it way back when it was first done, which was the Norman Kirk Cycleway, but we fully support that being brought back into place. They are probably the main points. There's obviously a lot of other things in that submission, so I'm welcome to take questions.
Phil.
Thanks, Mike. Just on the Cranford Street and the Northern Motorway, from your comments, is it like that if in fact there could be like a workable plan for the section downstream from Innes Road, that in fact your board would be more likely to support the whole Northern Motorway?
Yeah, we've got a big ward, so obviously there's positive effects from this and there's negative effects. End of the day, I guess the government's sort of pushing to where the extension has to begin. So we're sort of getting pushed into one direction. But we believe we need to basically mitigate some of those negative effects. You know, there's going to be negative effects from this motorway that we're not going to be able to control. You know, there's a community that is going to be very negatively affected from this project, but we need to do our best to obviously reduce those problems from there. So one of those things is looking at how we can actually get the traffic flowing through there quicker. So some of the negative effects of obviously having the suburb cut in half will be reduced by the fact that the congestion won't be as bad.
And just to clarify, Mike, I understood you were saying that in fact, in terms of resolving the congestion issue, especially for the northern parts of your ward, that in fact the board would be supportive of finding a way to do that.
We are very supportive of finding a way to do that.
Yep, Paul.
Mine was along similar lines. Actually, just tell me if what I'm hearing is correct, that the NZTA's desire to get the Waimakariri residents into the city where they come each day through this state highway is now going to be dumped on the council at a point where we have to take some ownership of it, and we don't know what that is going to look like.
That's correct. So the cars used in that motorway will be from the Waimak. So yes, there's a positive effect because they're not going down through some of the northern suburbs like Belfast and Redwood. But the people in Belfast and Redwood won't be using that motorway. They'll be going down the main North Road, Papanui Road, which won't have as much congestion. So the people using that motorway that we've got to pay $67 million for will be non-paying ratepayers from the Waimak.
Yep. Ali.
What staff saying at the moment will happen once cars hit Innes Road, Mike?
They believe that they will disperse to where they need to go, and they don't think there'll be much rat running. And the daily traffic at the intersection of Beeley Ave and Sherbourne will be at about 11,000, which, you know, we're not engineers, but it just doesn't seem to add up to us.
Yep. Are there other issues that people would like to raise? I'd hate to let you get off scot-free, so the Shirley Community Centre, we've got that on the budget at the moment, but you want that brought forward.
St Albans.
St Albans. Yep. Oh, sorry, have I circled the wrong one?
There is the Shirley one as well, and staff are currently in discussion. We had a community meeting last week, so that is moving forward. I
circled the wrong number. So this is 21131.
Yes. And
you want it brought forward by a year?
Yes.
Okay, right. What was it? I too was interested in this whole Cranford Street business because the proposal at this stage is to 4-lane to Innes Road, but then it is to allow it to be double-laned going in the morning and double-laned on the out by not having parking. Is that?
There is talk about clearway. So there is, I think, just under $1 million for the downstream effect of it. We don't exactly know how they're going to do that, but that is a proposal. But we still don't see that would be a proper solution to it.
So have you talked about what the solution would be? Or
as a board, we believe 4-lane in it all the way around to Madras and Barbados and join it onto there, extending the one-way system right up to Warrington to the end of it, and then we have to link onto it there, so come down Madras and Barbados.
So I'm just trying to figure out where would you turn left?
So Cranford Street, instead of going all the way up to Sherbourne, when it gets to Berwick, then hang a left around there, and then it links up to the Madras and Barbados. Yeah, so Warrington, it's the same.
Isn't that the original route that various people got elected to council opposing?
Possibly, could be.
No, I think it actually was meant to come off Westminster because where we were was meant to be lower.
Right.
So Berwick's further down, you're coming in further down Far, closer to the roundabout address.
It can't.
Berwick.
Eh?
Something to say Berwick, that's Berwick, Berwick.
Right, okay, right.
Yes.
Okay, so, and you think that that's a project that would satisfy the...
Oh, it's not going to satisfy a lot of people because half the problem is is having their suburb cut in half.
Yeah.
But we're trying to look at the best way to, I guess, make the best possible outcome out of a poor situation. We can't please everyone. But at the same time, I don't want, we have people saying, oh, there's a big win for the people of the north, but I don't think we should be giving people a big win at the cost of other people in our ward. But it's trying to look at the best solution. It's sort of been forced on us, I guess.
It is hugely challenging, but the thing that I've never understood is why you would choose the street that ends at Beeley Avenue.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. You've got to go left or right, and I can't understand why you would do that. But anyway, Yanni.
Thank you. It's a really interesting question, isn't it? And I mean, have you thought about, given the huge amount of money we're spending in Flockton to deal with the flooding, and then we're going to just a block over or 2 blocks over, going to spend a whole bunch more money on roading? Has anyone looked at those two issues together and found out if there's any common solutions? Because it seems the more sensible, cost-effective way of dealing with the issue.
That has been discussed. It was brought up by Ali. But I think the way the northern arterial hits Queen Elizabeth II Drive, it doesn't work getting across there. I think that was the answer.
It doesn't actually cross the area.
It's just, the way they'd have to dog leg it would make it not work. So this was the best solution if they continue straight forward. But it has been looked into.
Yeah. Pauline.
So are you and your board suggesting that nothing be done until that part is sorted out and it's encapsulated in one project rather than at the moment it's 2-3 bits with a fourth bit missing? Is that
That's sort of how we see it. So currently, the 3 projects that currently stand is in one big project. So you've got the Northern Arterial, which is the NZTA, you've got the extension, which is us, and also the Cranford Street 4 laning. We think that project should actually be 4 parts to it, all done at the same time. So that would include the downstream effects. So basically, everything is done at the same time, because we think if the Cranford Street 4 lane is done first, it's just going to be, it won't work.
So what your community's worried about is that without the 4th stage, you fear that it'll never get on the budget, and they'll be left with this bottleneck.
It's sort of like a chair of 4 legs. You can do something with 3 legs, it's not a problem, but as soon as you put weight on it, it's just going to crumble.
Well, it depends where you put the leg, because a 3-legged stool can be very stable.
Yeah, not when it's missing that 4th leg.
But anyway, Ali.
Just very quickly, you mentioned 11,000 cars expected down the end of Sherbourne.
Yes.
When they hit Beeley Ave. What's the number of vehicles that should be hitting that Innes Road intersection until it narrows, essentially? What's...
Once it's all done?
Yeah.
So this is 2031 figures. The only figure I know there is for that intersection on a daily is 47,000. Right. So currently it sits at around 20,000. So even putting another set of lanes in, they're still not going to get it to what it needs to be.
So the difference between the 47 odd, and I'm not playing games, honestly, can't remember the figures, but so when you get to there and you've got 47 and you've got 11 at the end of Sherbourne, your point before about it not adding up is where are the rest of those cars going, yeah? Is that what
look, that's a good question, and we're still waiting for the answer, and I believe we've got some modelling coming. It's a lot of cars. We're waiting for the answer.
And obviously you've had a discussion at your community board about the level of rates increases, and you'd like to see that reduced.
Yes, we don't want to see such an increase, and we'd prefer that capital was, not as much capital was spent. And we also had a discussion around asset sales as well, which is in there.
Now, but you've now asked us to increase the capital expenditure, so whereabouts were you going to suggest that we reduce the capital expenditure?
Well, that's a big question, so you guys have got the brains on that one. We have asked a couple of things to be deferred as well. Possibly then we may need to look at the whole $67 million Northern Arterial extension and Cranford Street 4 laning.
Well,
it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but we have a commitment in terms of the central government.
Tollgate.
The RONs, the tollgate in St Albans.
I think we've got some obligation to do something about the congestion, that traffic congestion in that part of the city.
Doesn't mean you put in a bung project.
I know.
Good project, right.
We've had a number of issues, but I mean, there's also the walk cycle bridge over the Waimakariri River. I mean, that's another huge budget. You may be suggesting that it be a joint project between CCC and Waimakariri District Council, but I've yet to see a joint project between the two councils that is equally funded. If we do it on a population basis, then I suspect we're also talking about a large capital proposal there as well. But anyway, look, thank you very much. Yep. It's very good, and I'm glad that community boards are thinking about all of the issues. It's great. Thank you. And the next one is the Spraden Heathcote Community Board.